Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the 100-Day Tomato Challenge. But this time around, we are working on the Google multiplication techniques, whereby you get to specialize in producing Google seeds and seedlings as part of income generation in your farming endeavor. So on Sunday, we look at the major techniques of how you can multiply the ugu seeds so that you can profit from producing seeds that are viable and excellent for crop production. In the recap, we have several topics that we actually treated. We talked about the science of the ugu seeds, the anatomy, the ugu seed known as the fluted pumpkin seed, the germination. We did mention about sprouting it in sawdust using liquid smoke. Liquid smoke, we did mention about its strength in helping with sterilizing the sawdust where we sprout the seeds. Sawdust was chosen as a medium for sprouting based on the fact that it can retain water and also help the seeds to germinate without the attendant issues of diseases and all the rest that could possibly be in the soil you normally grow with. Now we split these seeds into four parts, retaining some parts of the shoots and the roots after sprouting within 5 to 10 days, and then we place it back into the sawdust for germination. And then we talked about how you treat the split seeds and the multiplication, making the farmer productive with their system. And then we talked about organic and soil preparation and fertility management. We talked about the fertilizer use efficiency, whereby we did mention about the applications of fertilizer and how effective the plant takes up the nutrient. And most of the fertilizer we discussed earlier in tomatoes are designed in such a way that once the plants have access to this nutrient, it becomes very useful for them to quickly take nutrients and then begins to produce according to plan. We talked about the organic pest and disease management, the leaf spots, downy mildew, and root rot. Most of the problem with ugu seeds has to do with root rot. The roots rot easily um, because of poor management, and so we look at that. So go to chapter 7, the crop management and watering or irrigation, harvest and post-harvest handling, the business angle and the marketing strategies, and then how you can scale up and get excellent results. So let's get started with the chapter 6 of the production of ugu seeds. As you know, my name is Adisoji Saka, and I'm happy we have Madam Esther Aditayo, who is a visionary of this platform, and also Mr. Kenny, who is here to join us as a trainer on this platform. So I welcome everyone. This will be recorded, and also hopefully we have a video of the whole process uploaded on your dashboard. If you can hear me loud and clear, please kindly signify and say hi so we can now go on.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Oh, all right. So let's get started. So we talked about choosing the right sawdust. Sawdust serves as a nursery bed for ugu seeds, and not all sawdust are actually suitable. I did mention about not using sawdust that has been treated with paint or with chemicals. So you have to choose sawdust that are free from chemicals and preservatives and all the rest. And then the sawdust must be light, loose to texture for good aeration. So usually this is how we prepare the sawdust for use, where you can wash the sawdust. Actually, you can soak in water, rinse it, and then squeeze out the water, and then you spray with the liquid smoke. You can sun dry it on a clean material, nylon, for 2 or 3 days, depending on the environmental condition, and then you now sterilize with liquid smoke. In the past, the sawdust used to be treated with water. You actually cook the sawdust, you steam it. This process comes from the production of plantain suckers, multiplications of plantain suckers, which maybe in the tail end of our training, we'll go into tree crops productions and all the rest. And now we can produce plantain suckers, pineapple suckers, and then even cashew and all those system. But this, we use the sawdust, we sterilize usually by steaming or boiling in water, hot water, and then we sun dry it, and then we now inoculate with uh, 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 wood vinegar or the liquid smoke. But the liquid smoke itself, based on my experience, is sufficient enough to deliver the sterilization without actually going to the rigors of boiling the sawdust. You only just need to wash it so that it can have some water in it, and then you squeeze out the water, and then you can sterilize directly with um, liquid smoke, and then you have a small uh, container or pack where you want to grow, or like a box, and then you just spread um, the the sawdust, the treated sawdust on it, and then you now put your um, uh, seeds on it to begin to sprout. The seeds can be pre-treated, like I said earlier on, by soaking it for 24 hours or 12 to 24 hours. You can, if the seed is, if the seed is dormant, seeds, ugu seed can quickly go into dormancy. If it stays 2 3 weeks, it goes into dormancy. So you need to wake it. I did mention about the hot water and cold water treatment system, where you dip in hot warm water and then you dip again in cold water. You repeat the processes like 5 times so that you can wake up the seeds, and then they can actually begin to sprout easily without having issues with sprouting. So, but the fresher you get your seed, the better it is for you to attain success. And so you get the seeds on the system. Usually, what I do is on the farm, sometimes we may not have uh, time to do box and all those things. So what we do is we just have logs of wood. You make a four corner on it, and then we put the sawdust, the treated sawdust on it, even on the bare floor, and then we cover with net. We erect some woods at the four corner, and then we use mosquito nets to cover it. After planting, and then we sprinkle. Then when we are splitting it after 5 or 6 days, we prepare another similar locations, and then we put all the seeds, allow them to sprout, and then we begin to remove from the place. Sometimes we have palm frond um, constructed on top of it. In some other cases, I've done that in several farms. So these are just the process that you can use to multiply them in very large numbers, and then you begin to um, after the germinations of the splitted uh, um, ugu seeds, and then you begin to put them in smaller bags. There are these smaller bags, 8 to 10 inches bags, and then you begin to sell your ugu seeds. And the ugu seeds you are selling are usually disease free because you are treated it with wood vinegar, and there's good assurance that the seeds will sprout very well. So, if you want to use the liquid smoke, like 100 mils into like 1.5 liter or 2 liter is enough, and then you spray it on it, and then like I said, you can soak the ugu seeds for like 6 to 8 hours if it is dormant in its dormant state. If it has been left fallow for a very long time, and then you can wake it up, or you do the cool down hot water treatment, and then you can soak with the liquid smoke so that it can absorb some of the um, nutrients of the liquid smokes that speed up germination. And so you need to water every day, but not waterlogged. You water it lightly, water it, make sure it doesn't dry out. And so you use nozzles or this watering can. Watering can is better, and then you moisture the sawdust, like I said, lightly, uh, not too soggy, and then you can place the seeds 2 to 3 centimeters apart, 2 to 3 centimeters apart, since you'll be removing them afterwards. And then the sawdust doesn't need to have any nutrients. You just want the seeds to begin the process of growth. And then after that process is established, you now introduce into your potting bags that you've prepared. So you're usually going to water gently, like I said, and not soggy. You water every day so that you maintain consistent moisture. It's very important you don't water them. Excessive water can actually lead to rot. Rot, the seed begins to rot. So you don't want that to happen. And the ideal temperature, the normal ideal temperature for the growth is the room temperature between 25 to 30 degrees centigrade. And then you keep in a shady area. You're not going to expose to direct sunlight. If you expose to direct sunlight, it dries out, and then um, there's uh, photo photosynthetic system that germinations adopt. So they usually love it to be in the dark. So you create a kind of shade so that germination can quickly occur. Most germinations, that's why we use black coverings for most, even the seedling trees and all that. It is important you have such covering on shaded area, um, but not direct sunlight. So, and then ventilations, and you prevent, of course, when you spray with the liquid smoke, there won't be growth of any mold or whatsoever. So you monitor the seeds. It is very important. You monitor the seeds. Some seeds, like I said, can begin to germinate almost immediately. Like within 3 4 days, we have seeds like that. If experiences like that within the 4 to 5 days, you can see the germination coming up. When you have such seeds, those seeds are special. You can label them and then pay attention to their growth and then grow seeds from them. And if you grow seeds from them, you can start having such viable seeds as part of your lifeline um, in seeds production. If you are going to seed production, ugu seeds are usually very expensive. The paint bucket of ugu seeds these days can be as expensive as 25 to 30,000, if not more, depending on the area you buy them from. That paint bucket, I mean the 4 liter bucket. So those small paint buckets can be as expensive as 25 to 30,000. And so watch out for the roots, emergence of the root and the shoot. So when you start seeing this, you can allow some few time for maturity, and then you begin to. If you watch the video, you will see a vivid description of what I mean by the shoot and the root. So usually between the 10th to 4th day, most of the seed will have germinated, and then you can start splitting. But when you have those who have who germinated faster than the rest, you can start splitting and then split them and then place them back. You split and place back almost immediately. You don't need to wait for anything. You don't allow it to dry out. After splitting, it is important you introduce back into the sawdust the facing up so that germination can continue. And after 5 to 7 days, the splitted seed will regerminate because the sprout and the root system is already there, and then it begins to germinate. And so you always spray with the liquid smoke introduced into the watering can and smoke so that it can energize them and then empower them to do that. So let's troubleshoot. If you are experiencing um, rottening of the seed, that means you're overwatering. So, and of course, your sawdust has issue. So, fresh sawdust are usually preferred. The ones that have been collected freshly is usually preferred, and then also treat well with the wood vinegar or the liquid smoke. Both are the same, and then you allow it to soak well. But so when you are noticing the seeds begins to rot, then you know that there's a problem with either watering or the medium in which they are being grown. Then slow germination. So if there are slow germination, so that means the weather could be a factor of it. Sometimes we do cover the top sometimes so that we can generate, especially during the cold period now when we have high humidity. So what we do is we begin to cover up. Can use these jute bags. Those jute bags. You can use it to cover the sawdust so that it can help generate some heat, and then the process can of germination can speed up. So during the cold period, there will be slow growth, and then also make sure you continue using with the liquid smoke. And then when you have molds on sawdust surface, that means you have maybe if you are growing in a room and then ventilation is a problem. So if you have those molds on those sawdust, it's encouraging the growth of some certain bacteria or fungi. So that means the condition is a bit ventilation is an issue. So you need to improve on the ventilation, and usually use the liquid smoke to spray any areas where you find molds in them. So what is the benefit of this system? So the benefit of this system is that you're going to get a higher germination rate. Okay, um, because you are not introducing directly into the soil, you are introducing into a treated medium, and this treated medium is specialized to help the plants grow out. So, um, and also it helps you to select weak or diseased seeds. So during the germination, you can see seeds that are weak, seeds that are not growing the way they should, so you can quickly discard them, and so you select some of the best seeds to grow. Since you are splitting and you are not losing that much, one seed that is not doing well, you can actually throw away. And how do you know a seed that is not growing well? When you have some certain deformation or some certain diseases around the seeds, but it's managed to grow, those seeds are not viable in a long term. So you need to discard such seeds. And then if the is not vigorous in the germination process compared to others, you can grade them and see those ones that are not doing well, and then you can remove and make sure you concentrate energy and effort in reproducing seeds that has that vigor, that has that root systems, and they shoot. And so you have either seeds, and so you will not be pressed for disease, no disease pressure, and then you are having a very, very strong start. And so, one of the takeaways that you need is that you're going to use um, um, you need to treat the seeds with the liquid smoke before sprouting. You maintain moisture and warmth for uniform germination, and then you split seeds at the correct stage. I did mention what you watch out for. Why? So why the seeds uh, splitting? In traditional ugu farming, one seed equals one plant. One seed is one plant, which means higher seed cost and also limited expansion for small scale farmer. But by splitting sprouted seeds into four viable segments, you are multiplying the seeds from one seed into four. And then you slash the seed cost by as much as 75%. And then you make even ugu farming more scalable. So what it means is that for the low income farmer, the ugu seeds that you are producing, it can give you the opportunity to even grow more within the system that you already created for yourself. So there are a whole lot to look. It's a revolution in seed efficiency. This is a revolution in seed efficiency in production. And so you can start producing ugu seedlings and ugu seeds and ugu leaves. And so the value chain started well with a good grasp of what you can do with the seeds and how you can leverage on seed production, seedlings production, and the ugu leaves production. So it grants you properly as a farmer with the right tools to excel. Because once you're able to multiply, that means you need where to grow them if you are going to produce. And so automatically you have a larger seeds to you're going to grow your farm as large as possible. And then you also can go into different ceilings, selling and what have you. So we use sharp knives for cutting, and you sterilize with hydrogen peroxide. And then you use disposable gloves. It's very important so you don't transfer diseases, unwanted diseases from one plant to another. So you clean the surface where you are cutting, and then like I rightly say, you sterilize your tools so that you will not be spreading pathogens deliberately. And then um, so I think let's go. We've done step by step splitting of the seeds. I've described that, and it's also in the video. So the care for the new seedlings. So this is chapter 4. After splitting, the quarters are really fragile. So to keep them alive, you need to apply moisture. The moment after you split them into four parts, you put the seeds back into the sawdust, and then you cover, and then sprinkled with water. You can use a water can. You add liquid smoke to it. Um, you must not keep under direct sunlight. Direct sunlight is a no. So you can have palm frond created on top, or you have a kind of erected wood around it, and then you can put some nets on it, mosquito nets, or even you can even cover with um, these bags. There's these bags they use in transporting cocoa and all the rest. You can water through it, and then you cover lightly, and then you keep checking every now and then for signs of sprouting, so that the bags will not suppress the sprout of the seeds. And so also allow airflow within the environment ventilation. After 7 days to 10 days, when you replanted it, you are going to get sprouts. They will start showing sign of new roots and then new shoots, and then you can allow for maybe another 1 week. Then you start transferring them into the plastic bags, or you transfer into the plastic bags um, for for selling as seedlings, or directly onto the field. The nursery bags, I mean, those nursery bags are about six, and you have prepared the organic potting mix, the one we described earlier on with tomatoes. We work perfectly with it. So you water lightly and then uh, allow 2 or 3 months before feed planting. Okay, 2 or 3 weeks rather, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, depending on the environment. So then you start planting. When you split, the survival rate is usually 3 out of 4, or you can, if you perfect the act, you can have 4 out of 4 all the seeds that you splitted growing. But usually 3 out of 4 we germinate effectively. So, and then the mistake you don't want to do is to cut too early. So you need to make sure the seeds have sprouted well, and then you have the root system in the seeds. If you split too early, you kill the embryo, because the embryo will be too weak to continue with germination. Then, if you are using dirty tools, you'll be spreading fungi to to the plant, to the seeds, and so you risk having issues with fungi and diseases. Like I said, overwatering is an issue. After splitting, you don't want to overwater. And then you don't need to leave the whole thing
I can't hear you again, so if you can hear me. Or am I the only person?
Yes, he has
Yes,
gone off. I
yes.
cannot
Let
hear
me
too.
try. Hmm. Maybe he has a problem with his network. Let's just hang on for a few minutes.
Hello.
Welcome back,
Welcome
sir.
back, sir.
Okay. Where last did you miss me? Looked like the network was a bit
You were saying that we should not split too early.
okay. Okay. So allow the seeds to germinate properly. If you split too early, you are going to halt the process of germination. So when you split, they may not sprout the way they should. So you want to take proper notice of that, so that they are matured enough within 9 to 10 days, and so that way you get good results. So let's look at how you prepare the nursery beds for seedlings. So after splitting,
Hello, sir. Please, can we ask question before I forget?
okay, please go ahead.
Yes, I posted a couple of them on the chat. First and foremost, what is liquid soap smoke? And yeah, what is liquid smoke? God, that's the starting point. And I ask
Yeah,
another
liquid.
question: if rice husk can be treated the same way as the sawdust and used as the grow media?
Then you can, but Rice husk will not retain much water like the
Sawdust.
the sawdust. Rice husk is a bit uh, retention of water is quite poor compared to sawdust. Why sawdust is choosing is because of the way it retains water, and so there's this uh, connection with the seeds. The seed is taking as much water as it needed to germinate from the soil. But when you have the rice husk, you won't get much, unless if it is charred. If you have a rice husk that is charred, about charred rice
Mhm.
husk, you can mix with some other materials to grow. But using rice husk alone may give some issues you don't want to have. Any other
Okay.
question?
You have not answered the question on the liquid smoke.
Yeah, liquid smoke is condensed smoke. It's one of the products you have access to on this platform. Okay,
Okay.
so you have access to it. It's condensed, but the way we prepare it, a bit technical, and so uh, this condensed smoke has huge properties. In the previous lecture, I did mention about why we are using it, and so you may need to get the audio of the last training, the last session. Any other question before we move on? Okay, so
I
as
don't
you,
know if it's because you're on Bluetooth. Good evening, sir, or something. There are some of your statements that is lost. I don't know. Maybe you can just help us check your audio very well.
oh really? I'm not using Bluetooth. I'm using directly. I don't know. Is this a general problem?
Yeah. It will be the network.
Yes, it's a general problem, but I don't think the
Yes,
interference
it
is
is.
coming from you.
Oh, I see. I see. So I think interference may be those who leave their mic um open. You can you can mute so they won't have. The only time you speak is when you want to ask questions. So let's try to mute so that there won't be any undue interference. Okay. So I assume I'm still very clear now, loud and clear.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, you are correct.
Okay. So for Ugo nursery beds, polybag setups, and what have you, generally we use what we call voucher. Um, 10% of the voucher, or you can say maybe 10 kg, but 10% of the voucher. Um, the reason why we use voucher is a form of charcoal. It helps to retain water and also helps to reduce inhibit the bacteria in the soil. Um, in those days, our parents use charcoal. They just drop some charcoal in soup to prevent it from going bad. So charcoal has this capacity to reduce occurrence of bacteria in the medium that it finds itself. And so, if you want to remove smell, even in water treatment plants, charcoal is one of the major ingredients they use in filtration and all the rest because it's um, holds toxins and then retains bacteria and then retains water. So, what we do with the biochar is that we recharge the biochar by adding there's what we call lactic acid bacteria. I don't know if we've done anything close to that in previous lecture. Lactic acid bacteria is a kind of bacteria that is gotten from um, fermentations of milk and some other materials, and the rice wash. And so this lactic acid is used to energize the boucher. You can also use compost tea. Compost tea is gotten from normal compost, and you dip in water, you stir every day for at least 7 days, and then it's ready. And then you pour on your boucher, sitting on it for like 5 to 7 days, so that it can draw in the nutrients, and then you can now introduce into the soil. Boucher or charcoal, whatever it is, when used without activating it, what I've just described is activating the boucher. When used without activating it properly, can cause a big problem for the farmer instead of giving benefits that it holds. Um, the reason is that once it is in the soil and you plant ugu seeds, and you did not activate the boucher before you plant the seeds, all nutrients that you put into the soil, the boucher begins to draw it to itself. It draws the nutrient to itself, and so the plant begins to starve. It begins to starve the plant from getting access to nutrient and even water itself. And then after a while, the plant begins to perform poorly. The charcoal or the boucher will only start releasing nutrients until it reaches a saturated uh, point. And this equilibrium point is what you need to establish first by activating the boucher, by soaking it in compost so that it can soak up the nutrients, soak up water, and have all those necessary materials in it. And then when you now mix with compost, mix with topsoil, and then river sands for draining purposes, and then you now prepare that as a soil for either your poly bags or your nursery bags, you you get a very excellent result. But if you just throw charcoal into it, it first take the nutrient away first, starve the plant. If the plant is not strong enough, if it has poor humidity, then it dies off. And so, but once the nutrient is stacked in the uh, voucher, it begins to release the nutrients gradually to the plant. As you begin to water, it begins to release it, but it first holds the nutrient first until it gets to a saturated point, then it starts releasing the nutrient. So this is how voucher works. And so in this organic potting mix that I'm just trying to describe, you use 40% compost, 30% topsoil, and then 20% river sand, or this washed river sand, sharp sand, and then 10% boucher. The reason for the sharp sand is to help in draining the water. As much as the ugu seeds needs water, it loves water. It also does not love water to be waterlogged around its root system, or else the root begins to drown. The root can drown in water, and or can even rot in water. So this you don't want to do. And so you ensure good airflow with the boucher, introducing the carbon matters and all that into the system. So making your potting mix very healthy and very good to go. So building the soil fertility. You need to build the soil fertility for the ugu plant, which is the heart of the organic farming. So the live wire of farming in organic is the compost. Okay, and so we'll be having some compost videos and materials on how you can do your compost properly. Um, like we said earlier on, we use compost from maybe kitchen waste, kitchen scraps, animal manure, goats, cow, poultry, but they are well rotted. Okay, they are not fresh. The only time you use fresh um, materials is when you are using maybe goat, you are using rabbit poo. Rabbit poo can be used almost immediately, and that is the advantage of rabbit poo compared to goat or even cow. And you can also use it if you are doing a kind of compost mix. You can only use fresh cow, uh, cow or chicken manure, but you need to understand the mixture of materials. So you are not using only that materials alone. You are adding materials like molasses, bone meal, um, different things into it so that you can enhance the nutrients and then you continue to steer. And it won't be ready until maybe after 10 to 14 days. And so you speed up the composition by introducing also the lactic acid bacteria into the system. And so after like 14 days, you can start using the compost tea made from fresh, either fresh cow dung, chicken poo, or what have you, or goods. But you need a specialized training on that. Maybe when we are talking about liquid fertilizers, we'll be having some session on it later on. So we talk about liquid fertilizers and how you can produce yours and have specialized training on that. So, and then you have for the compost, you have the green, the carbon materials, and then how you pie them. We discuss about, and then you turn them 2 or 3 times every week. You turn them after 2 or 3 weeks. Turn them every day. After 2 or 3 weeks, it begins to turn them, and then the compost may be ready in 6 to 8 weeks. Um, when that, but when you specialize in controlling of the environment for compost, especially using the 1 meter by 1 meter, the heat generated when you mix carbon, fresh grass cutting, introduce microbia like fresh cow dung or chicken poo, and then you keep on alternating the pies, kitchen waste, and all the rest, and then after like 3 to 5 days, you begin to turn and then begins to generate the necessary heat that encourages microbial activities. When done properly, you can get your compost within 3 to 4 weeks. So, and then you can also add a sprinkle of wood ash, talk about crushed eggs, and then there's what we called phosphate rocks. And so you use phosphate rocks, you can sprinkle it on it, and then you have your black gold. So I did mention about the boucher earlier on, or charcoal, which is made from plant waste. You can make your boucher from um, rice husk, depending on the method you want to use. I said it retains nutrients, it holds nutrients and water like a sponge. It serves like a sponge. The boucher serves like a sponge. So you remember when you have the boucher incorporated in the soil, and then there's water, it holds water, and so when there's total dry out, it start releasing water to the environment, and so the root system start getting water again, and so the plants don't die out easily when you have that incorporated. And it's a powerhouse of microorganisms. Microorganisms loves to stay in the spores of the boucher or the charcoal, and so it can last for years. It doesn't disintegrate, so it lasts for years and years, and is not washed away like chemicals or anything. So, but you need to crush this boucher into smaller sizes so that you can incorporate them well within the soil structure where you are planting. Like I said, you need to charge it. You charge it with the compost tea, the manure slurry for days so that the nutrients are in there. So there's what we call green manuring. If you are doing open field production, so this green manuring is when we grow legumes first before we introduce uh, ugu plant. The legumes, excuse me, the legumes, the legumes introduces nitrogen into the soil. So in green manuring, what we do is like soya beans or even um, cowpea, granules, or the legumes family. You plant it first. After 3 weeks or 4 weeks of sprouting, you turn them into the soil. You turn them back into the soil. You plant them because you want them to fix nitrogen into the soil. Any soil that is treated in this green manuring method, we have enough nitrogen in the system. I did mention that we use blood meal as nitrogen, which is the highest source of nitrogen in nature is blood. In fact, it has the NPK value of 1200, and so it's very potent. But you still need know how to use it. A liter into 10 liter, you use it to water the plant, and then you do that every month, once in a month. You don't overdo it, and so the plant turns very grainy, and then you have excellent. Of course, just as we need balanced diet, plant also needs some balanced nutrients in the mix. So after doing the green manuring on a very open field, you are going to get excellent results with nitrogen being fixed effectively. The raised bed. So the raised bed or the container, you can use the tomatoes fruiting or leaf stage fertilizer I described in previous training. You can apply this into um, container farming, but you need to make the soil in the container must be um, processed in such a way that it doesn't look clayey, it doesn't stick. It's once you after mixing the soil, you can use uh, cocoa peat as part of what you use so that you have organic matters, compost, and so many biochar and everything incorporated in it. This way, you have a medium that cannot compact easily in the potting, in a pot or in a garden. Remember, ugu seeds are highly um, they they have highly developed root system, so they love big containers to grow in, so that their root system can the poorer the root system performs, the poorer you have leaves up. If the root system has enough space to spread out and get nutrients, then you see that reflect on the leaves. But if it is restricted in a small container, then the leaves are also very small. So these plants are very sensible. Um, they they understand and scan the medium in whatever they are being grown. If the nutrient that will support their growth is not in the required quantity, they begin to manage. And so managing the nutrients is producing fewer leaves and even fewer fruits in the case of, say, tomatoes. So when your tomatoes begins to produce smaller fruit, It's not usually stress or nutrient, but it's not usually strength but nutrient. It has understood its survival instinct perfectly, that it has to survive, and it has budgeted its nutrient demand not to grow bigger leaves, smaller leaves, so that it can live its lifespan. So that's why you see plants not growing well, is the nutrient in the soil. And so plants are like that. But if the nutrients are sufficient for them and in the right proportion, they begin to exhibit their capacities to the fullest. So we can grow them in buckets, like I said. So like the 25-liter bucket, paint bucket is very good. You can use it to start growing with seeds. One or two per bucket is enough to grow out, and then you need to manage by introducing nutrients every week once you are harvesting. You see, in harvesting ugu plants, the moment you harvest, you are taking nutrients away in form of leaves, and so you need to replenish. So for every harvest, you must replenish some nutrients into the plants, into the soil. And some of these nutrients, like the compost tea, you make for ugu, you always need to have compost tea, and then you do that every week when you harvest. You do the compost tea, the manure, everything. You can even introduce some few drops of Epsom salt. Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate, and magnesium is needed for production of photosynthesis. And so when you have nitrogen and everything in it from the compost, and compost from chicken, uh, a mix of compost from chicken and a mix of compost from cow dung, will give you a very balanced nutrient for ugu production. The reason is that the chicken poo, most times chicken are fed with very balanced diet. So, and then they have this micronutrient in their feed. And so and birds are poor digester, they don't digest nutrients well. And so once they begin to excrete these nutrients, you begin to have them in their feces, and then when you compose them, it is also part of the compost. So you have micronutrients, boron, molybdenum, and all those micronutrients that is needed in different proportion. And so once it is in compost form, it's ready for use, and then you use it as tea together with cow dung. The cow dung is very rich in most of the diet of the cattle. Cow are usually grasses and all the rest, and they have different chambers of ruminating what they consume in their stomach. And so you have lots of bacterial activities um, in there. So these bacteria are highly beneficiary. And so they pull it out. Their poo are usually very powerful because of the bacteria that they contain. So when you now mix that with chicken poo, you're going to have an ecosystem of very potent bacteria that will support the growth of your plant. And so adding molasses and adding some other materials, Epsom salt, a dash of hash if you need fruit and all that, then you begin to have very excellent um, uh, compost tea. And so this compost tea you can take once a week, and then you feed your plants. Don't do it every day. If you do it every day, you will kill the plants because you are overfeeding them. So just once a week is enough. The remaining days you water. Once a week you feed. The remaining days you water. And so they also do very well on raised bed, usually 1 meter wide, and then 30 centimeter high. 1 meter wide, 30 centimeter high, and then you can put stakes. They love staking. And so when you stake them, the leaves goes up, and then they are not exposed to fungi. And then you cover the birds, the bed with mulching or straw or grasses. so that it keeps the soil cool. So it suppresses weeds and also retain moisture. And so this way, then you can run irrigation on it, and then you're perfect to go. Most times, farmers do not like to uh, put mulching, especially leaf mulching. This leaf mulching from like rice straw, used rice, you can place it on this. So this suppress weed, so you're not going to weed much. And once weeding is taken out, your plant begins to grow. There's no competition between the plants and the weed. And so this way you're going to get excellent result. Then fertilizer use efficiency. In every organic system, when we had input, it has to be the right source. So you use organic fertilizers like the compost. I mentioned neem cake. Um, okay, I think we have a distraction. Sorry. Okay, so we have neem cake. So this neem cake is also very good to help prevent bacteria, and then you need to apply it at the right rate. So, like I said, you don't overload nutrients. Ugu does best with steady feeding, not sudden dump of nutrients. Just because you have those nutrients or you have a poultry and then you just dump aged manure on them. No, it doesn't work that way. Needs Ugu loves steady feeding, just like you feed your chicken. Most farmers do not understand that plants, just like chicken, needs attention. You begin to feed them as well, just like you feed your your. So it's important to feed the ugu plant regularly, like I mentioned, at least once a week, so that it can produce very well. And then you put the nutrient around the root system, okay, and then you just water lightly. You put if you are putting nutrients, say you are putting compost, you put compost around the root system, and then you water lightly. You water lightly, and then you get the results that you want. And then um, foliar spray for ugu is not the best idea for me, because if you do foliar spray, you risk introducing fungi or bacteria because of sudden change of humidity. Once a sudden change of humidity, um, chances that you are going to have fungi to build up is no. As fungi begins to build up, it's like downy mildews and all those mildews that affect them, black spots. You begin to notice it, and those are fungi, and they are always very difficult to control. We are in the system of developing a very powerful fungicides that we help. We have the liquid sulfur, which is one of the fungicides you can use, and also we have them in this network. When you need them, it's to pick. So transplanting to the field early in the morning is the key time to transplant, and then late in the afternoon. You avoid transplanting in the afternoon. If you do that, if you do transplant in the afternoon, the heat of the soil will have heated up, and so the root system will receive heavier shock because of the heat of the. It is preferably you do it overnight. Overnight is the best because you're going to have the plants to rest overnight, and then water as in period again to adapt to it. Instead of in the morning you have the sun coming up in the afternoon, just after you are dead, and so your chances of survival may be very low compared to when you place when you do the transplanting in the evening. And after every um, uh, transplanting, you water you water very well. You water immediately so that it can gain nutrients. It can gain water to continue the process of germination. So there are different ways of uh, what we call basal application of nutrients. This basal application of nutrients is placing compost at the base of before you transplant. Like pick up, let's say you have a specialized compost can mix things that you can do to make sure you have specialized nutrient. Remember, we are interested either in leaves or in the um, of the plant. So depending on whichever you in our fertilizer training, we expose you to how you can produce different fertilizers for different stages. But I did mention part of it in the tomatoes training, so you can go take a look at the tomatoes training. It's very good for leafy or vegetative growth, and then fruiting stage. So when you begin to have the good to grow at fruiting stage, when the pods are coming out, you can switch to the fruiting stage. If you want the leaf, you go to the vegetative fertilizer I described in the tomatoes, and then so you get all these tricks. Just you understanding what you need, and then have the knowledge to do that. So why do you manage organic fertilizer? It's very critical because ugu is a living vegetable and it requires high demands of nitrogen and of course other key ingredients for lush leaf growth. But when you do too much fertilizer, even if it is organic, you begin to cause leaf burn. Um, you have leaching of nutrients, that is wasting of those nutrients, and then you begin to disrupt the soil microbiology. So the soil microbiology needs to be balanced in such a way that it begins to help, like the pH and all that. Sometimes when you dump too much fertilizer, the pH of the soil is altered significantly, and once right, the plant do not access to nutrients. So even when you have the right nutrient, you have everything, but the pH of the plant, let's say pH of the plant is alkaline, and then because of the nutrient you dump on the soil, it becomes acidic. The soil becomes acidic. The plant will not be able to access nutrient, even though the nutrient is there, because the pH has been altered, or it begins to struggle to have access to nutrients. So you need to watch dumping of nutrients, and so you need to understand nutrient needs. The major nutrient needs for is NPK, which is in nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Nitrogen is used to grow leafy vegetables, leafy growth, and also phosphorus is for the root development and early stage establishment of the stems and all the rest. And then we have potassium. Potassium improves the leaf quality, okay, and also the water use, and also help in resisting stress resistance. And so we have minor nutrients like calcium, magnesium, iron, zinc. All these prevents both yellowing and strengthening of the cell walls, and also keep the leaves very grainy. And so you can get iron from molasses, zinc from different materials, and then magnesium from Epsom salts, calcium from bone meal, and the rest. So you need to have a base fertilizer for the soil. So that base fertilizer is usually compost, and which helps with the microbial life and then the long-term fertility of the soil. So you need a well-rotting poultry manure, where rotten poultry manure is very, very rich in nitrogen, um, and but it's very strong. So you have to be careful how you apply manure from poultry. You can do it in compost tea, and then the cow manure is perfect because it is gentler and then it's slow releasing. The poultry manure can be fast releasing nutrients at times when used. Then, like I said, compost tea is there. You prepare every week. You apply. After maybe you harvest, you can start applying after every 3 days. If harvesting is going on consistently, then you start applying the compost tea every 3 days. So if you have biogas slurry from gas, if it is available, you can also use that. It's very rich in a nutrient. So when you have such slurry, you can use you mix with water, 1 liter to 10 liter as soil drench. Use it as soil drench, and then of course neem cake. And use neem cake as is it's very rich in nitrogen. Also help in pest repellent. So you can soak up neem cake, use the water to water, or also you ferment the neem cake with molasses. After fermentation for like 20 days, what you have is highly potent nitrogen fertilizer, which you can mix in water to water the plant. So, so you must have the right source, um, compost, manure, the neem cake for your fertilizer. You must have the right rate, small amount but repeated dose instead of one big time application. Okay, so small dose but repeated application, not big time application. Just small dose, then repeat the dose steadily 2 3 days, 3 days, or weekly. You make sure you continue to apply those nutrients for them. Usually you apply at the right time after transplanting, and also 2 3 weeks for continuously flush. And then you place the nutrient close to the root zone uh, of the plant, not scattered all over the place, just around the root zone if you are using compost. So, like I said earlier, on stage one at the nursery, you water with light compost tea every week or 7 to 10 days. You don't use every fertilizer, just steady moisture like that to allow them to grow. Or else you kill them or you choke them with nutrients. And then you apply handful of compost around each of the plants when they are around 3 to 6 weeks. And then you can spray diluted compost around. Diluted compost, you can mix compost with your 1 kg to 10 liter, and then you mix, and then you you spray around the plant for vigorous leaf growth. So you're going to apply the compost tea, like I said, or the uh, animal urine. So we have this rabbit urine. Rabbit urine is one excellent urine you can actually use for um, as fertilizer. You use it every week or every 2 weeks for the plants. Oh, I did mention about blood meal that you use once a month, and then you are good to go. You can also use compost as dressing around the plant. So after the 10th week, you can start harvesting. So 10th week, you can start harvesting. Um, then you, after every harvest, like I said, you begin to have provide nutrients. You maintain the soil moisture, um, not too soggy, and then you mulch around it so that when you water, the water retains, doesn't dry out easily. So, like I said, avoid overfeeding, and then um, I think that's that. We've gone past the time. Um, okay, we'll finish this up tomorrow. We'll finish this up tomorrow, so that we can understand the marketing processes. Um, uh, you understand how to how to handle pests, the common Ugu pests, like the caterpillars, um, the green black insects, um, um, the white flies, aphids, grasshoppers, and beetles. Then there are common diseases like the leaf spot, downy mildew. Did mention about that, the root rot, viral disease like the mosaic virus, where you have a certain pattern on the leaves, which are uh, a viral disease, yellow green leaves, stunted plants, and then how you can prevent it: crop rotation, companion planting, sanitation, and then mulching, and then organic spray and remedies that you can use to control. So finish up this with harvesting and post-harvesting handling, and then the methods, and then we talk about marketing, and then adding value to it, business strategy, and then we end it up with branding, packaging, and then value addition. All right, so let's have questions. We've gone far past our allotted time. Good evening.
Good evening,
Um,
Mr. I'm just confused about this biochar. How do we make it or produce it? Or do we have to buy each time we want to use it?
okay, if I may just say something before Mr. Saka goes on. Um, Within the
Please go on.
next few days or a week or so, we will have a voucher video on how to
Okay.
produce your own voucher. And
Ah,
but just like Mr. Saka will say now, you can also use charcoal, but there will be a video on how to produce your voucher. Of course, you
thank
can also buy if you want.
thank you very much.
Please go ahead with the question. All right, I assume there are no questions. So let's call it a day. Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Saka, before we close, I'd like to make an announcement. Um, Tomorrow is the day for assignment submissions. The compost assignments, the 3 questions. Wednesday, we expect that all the answers will come in, just like it's in the messages that have been put on the composting practical group. And then Thursday and Friday, there will be a lot of discussions around it, enlightening ourselves, engaging, learning from one another. And then the preparations, or what everybody needs to prepare in terms of the organic materials they should get. And it won't be a big deal. There are things that everyone can get around locally, or even in the house or in the garden. So tomorrow we expect all assignments to be submitted. Just like I said the other time, of course, this is adult education. It's not like anybody is forced to submit the assignments and all of that. But I mean, we are taking the time to we're taking the time to register. We're taking the time to attend, lectures. And I mean, if for any of us here, we all know what the situation is. It's not just even about the cost of living expenses or food alone, but the issue of health. It's something that we whatever is worth doing at all is worth doing well. So please, just an appeal anyway, and all this talk. that we should do our best, because the more you engage with the material, the more likely that you would get it done well, and that it will be a sustainable thing for you. Thank you. So, having said that, I believe we can call it an evening, and tomorrow we'll meet on the group, the WhatsApp group, obviously, so that we can engage concerning our answers and all that. And then tomorrow evening, same time, 8 to 9, we'll meet here to most likely conclude on the masterclass for Ugu. Thank you, everyone. You can unmute and say good night. Good night. Have a nice night, everyone.
Yeah, good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Happy
Good
night
night.
rest.